Good evening, everybody, and welcome to yet another sports quiz with the stars, brought to you by the Sporting Club, of course. A very warm welcome, literally warm day today, heating up. Hope you are well. Hope you've had a good week, and we have another great guest star for you tonight. Before we introduce him, as always, a little bit of housekeeping. We have another sports quiz with the stars on Tuesday, the 11th of August. And our guest co-host for that particular edition is the Rugby League legend, Martin of Fire. Yes, Martin Chariots of Fire will be our guest co-host on Tuesday next week, the 11th of August. So be sure to check in and check us out for that particular show. And we have also some live events not too far around the corner, a physical lunch with David Hay at our club at M in the city, September the 10th, a Barry Hearn breakfast on October the 1st, a Tim Henman lunch on October the 20th, and provisionally, we can get him over, Sir Jackie Stewart on November the 20th, and also as a lunch, and also an evening with Lewis Moody, the former England rugby captain, on November the 12th. So much to look forward to. We will find a way to do these events. We're coming up with a whole range of novel, unique ways in which we can do it, and you are safe and you enjoy it. So watch this space, as they say, and we're on the verge of making some major announcements for next year, and indeed another venue for the Sporting Club as well. So lots going on, but all of that's for another day. Let's focus on tonight and our quiz. Our guest star tonight, well, he's got a famous surname. He had a very famous granddad, very famous great uncle, whole family immersed in cricket and football. Let's not forget the football side of it as well. He played 16 tests for England until pretty recently, until 2016, scored 2 tons in his 16 tests and 2 50s as well. He's a great friend of the Sporting Club. Our guest co-host tonight is Nick Compton, and hopefully, as always, because it's live and it's streaming, hopefully Nick will be joining us any second now. He's actually in South Africa, where he's been hanging out for a few weeks, a few months, but hopefully Nick's going to be joining us any second now. Hello, I can't see you at the moment, Nick. Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Ah, here he is. Can you see me, Nick?
You should be able to see me. Yeah, my video's on.
I can see you. I can see you. You haven't lost your looks at all. Yep, you're still there. Can you see me? Can you see me?
I can, mate. You have lost your looks, but you still look great. I'm only kidding.
It's the strain of knowing people like you. That's what it is. Right. So we're going to crack on shortly. Just very quickly to explain, you are in South Africa as we speak. Why are you down there? It's summer here. It's lovely. It's warm.
It's winter here, and it's lovely and warm too. So I guess you get the best of both worlds. Yeah, I came back for Christmas to see family, and hadn't been back, having played having had my career for that many years. So I think it was a nice opportunity to see family, and my sister lives in Cape Town, and just be at home for a little bit. And then, of course, COVID kind of hit us, and I had a decision to make pretty quickly. Do I go back to London or do I stay in South Africa? And I guess with the comforts of family life, I decided to stay at home with family. And then I've worked on a few injuries. I had an operation to my hips, actually, believe it or not. I've had some serious injuries. So I managed to get those fixed and just been rehabbing. And yeah, it's been quite a strange time in life, I think, for everyone. But a lot of Zoom calls, a lot of exercising on Instagram lives and trying to keep fit and healthy. So but it's nice to see you guys, and I'm back in the UK in a couple of weeks, so I look forward to catching up with everyone.
Oh, fantastic! Very briefly, how is it down there? I mean, it's obviously getting better here, but it's baby steps, and we're all bracing ourselves for the weather to get cooler. There seems to be a general acceptance there's going to be some kind of second wave, but I think there's also an acceptance. But one way or another. We're going to just try and soldier on, because I don't think this country can take a second full-blown lockdown, at least not economically, at least not financially. How's it down there?
Yeah, very similar. I would say quite draconian in terms of the way the government's gone about the lockdown. I don't think it had the same numbers as the US and the UK. So some would argue that the lockdown came too early and we should only really be going to lockdown now. And as you say, economically, I think the effects are going to be felt far harsher than perhaps the effects of COVID. I actually got COVID about a month ago, so I am a surviving patient. It wasn't too bad. It was a bit like a bad head cold, really. Kind of waiting for it to kick in and sort of think, gee, is it going to get worse? But I obviously was one of the lucky ones, so I got away with it. But yeah, it's a difficult one. I think in South Africa, there's a lot of economic pressure, and there has been sort of various bouts of corruption as well. So I think you get that in countries like this, whereas in the UK it seems to have been a little bit more laissez-faire, in the sense that there's a bit more movement, and Boris keeps fumbling over his words, so I've been keeping up to date with that. So I'm looking forward to getting back and actually living a little bit.
It's hard to keep up to date because every day it changes. How do you know you had COVID? Have you actually had did you get a test to say you had it?
I had a test, was positive. I had another test, was positive. So I think that was pretty conclusive. And yeah, just sort of quarantine for 14 days, which I have to say wasn't that much fun. But look, I'm in Johannesburg at the moment, and the weather's fantastic. I mean, it is winter. It does get quite cool in the evenings, but during the days it's been great. And yeah, I haven't spent this length of time since I was probably a young boy back in South Africa. I left when I was 15. Went to school in England, and then obviously played for Middlesex, Somerset, and had those opportunities with England. And I think suddenly that ends, and you come up for breath in a way, and you sort of think, wow, I've still got my family are in South Africa, and perhaps hadn't spent the time with them. So yeah, it's been an interesting time. I think now it's about sort of drawing a line under my career and kind of now moving forward. And I think I'm actually looking forward to getting back to London. It almost feels like a bit of a second wave for me, in some ways.
You'll be surprised. It's still pretty empty. Nobody's rushing to get back to their offices. People have discovered, whether they like it or not, that they can work remotely, and they're doing stuff like this. A lot more video conferencing is going on. Yeah. So I think it's going to make a big, profound impact. And when you get back, you'll see how quiet it is. I think it's probably going to stay that way until maybe Christmas, maybe even to the start of next year, but hey, the main thing is we crack on. And talking about cracking on, we need to crack on with this quiz. We could have a nice little halftime chat midway through the questions. For anybody who's new to the quiz, two halves. It's a quiz of two halves, 10 questions. Myself and Nick will take turns asking the questions. At the end, we'll provide the answers. We're then going to have a halftime chat, and then we'll do the second half of the quiz, the next 10 questions. And you will find, ladies and gentlemen, that the next 50 minutes or so is absolutely going to fly by. So if you are ready, if you've got your paper and pens, or however you're doing it, we'll get going. No cheating. What's the point? Don't Google. This is just for fun. So if you're ready, Compo, I'm ready. Shall we crack on?
Ready to go.
Okay, so I begin with question 1, which is a football question, very relevant. Fulham have just been promoted to the Premier League. Since 2000, the year 2000, they've had many, many managers. I'm thinking of 2 specifically, if you can name them for me. One of them, famous amazing French footballer who was part of that great Michel Platini team who won the European Championships in the mid-1980s. And the other one was a famous member of the Wimbledon Crazy Gang. Who were those 2 managers who have both managed Fulham in the last 20 years? And that is worth 2 points. Over to you, my friend.
Are we giving them a bit more time, or are we straight into it?
Straight into it. No mucking about.
Okay, question 2 is cricket, believe it or not. England are playing Pakistan right now in a test match. Who are Pakistan's top 2 all-time test batsmen in terms of runs scored? Also worth 2 points.
And on that subject, I Actually, I'm not sure what the end of play score was, but fair to say Pakistan are on top at the moment. I watched the opening exchanges, and I mean, this is obviously you an opening bat. And when people look at averages, it's always so black and white. They don't always take into account the opener is the one that has to face the new ball, the fresh bowlers, etc. And I don't know whether you saw the ball that Ben Stokes faced, for example. I mean, pretty hard. It was moving all over the place, pretty hard. So England have got a bit of work to do, but when there's Pope, there's hope. I just made it up, by the way.
There is. They're a good bowling side, Pakistan. So, I'm not surprised that they've put a few inroads into England, and I think they're going to be a challenge. They've always had a surplus of fast bowlers who can move the ball around. So England have got to be at their best. Yeah,
and also I mean, you know better than me. I would have thought actually they're probably, as an away team, they're probably better in somewhere in England than maybe South Africa or Australia, because what they do, the conditions suit their bowlers, doesn't it?
Well, they've always done well in England. They pitch the ball up. They're skiddy sort of bowlers. They're not tall guys, so they really get the ball full. And they can, as you know, with the likes of Waqar Younis and Wasim Akram, swing bowlers, they look to reverse the ball. And when bowlers are doing that, they've obviously got to attack the stumps. So, yeah, they're perfect exponents of these conditions. I mean, something that Jimmy Anderson and probably Stuart Broad do quite well. They pitch the ball up and bring the bowlers forward. But the Pakistan bowlers can do that at pace as well. So they're going to be a real handful, and they tend to do well in England. They've won a few test matches in England, and they've really caused an upset. So, that's where the opening batsmen really do come in. You've got to try and see the new ball off if you can.
Yeah. Okay, great. My turn for question 3. It's a Formula One question. The British Grand Prix was last weekend, and Esteban Ocon came 6th, and Lance Stroll came 9th. If you don't know your F1 particularly, these are relatively new names in the game. Question is, where do they come from? Which countries do Esteban Ocon and Lance Stroll come from? And that is worth 2 points. Okay, Compo.
We have a boxing question. Lennox Lewis only lost twice during his heavyweight career. Can you name who beat him? And that's for 2 points.
Are you a fight fan?
I am, not huge. Dad was a big Muhammad Ali fan back in the day. Who wasn't? So I got told many a story about him. And yeah, I do enjoy it. I do, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, if put it this way, at some point Joshua's going to fight Fury.
Yeah.
Would that float your boat? Would you watch that one?
I'd stay up and pay 20 quid for box office or whatever it was. Definitely, yeah. Of course I would.
Yeah, cool. Me too. Although I'll probably wrangle a ticket somehow or other. My question is for question 5. It's an Olympics question, and very simply, where were the Olympic Games staged in 1960 and 1964? Where were the venues of the Olympic Games in 1960 and 1964? Now, Compa, I don't know about you, but I love the Olympics. I've been lucky enough to go to, 7 or 8 of them. And it's the one time sort of every 4 years where you utterly get yourself into sports that normally you don't have a lot of interest, but you just find yourself, especially if you're supporting, Team GB in my case, you suddenly become massive badminton fans or massive canoeing fans or whatever. Oh, I can't go out because I need to watch so-and-so win the gold medal in the slalom kayak.
Yeah, I've got to say, I was trying to think about it. What was I think the beach volleyball, women's beach volleyball has caught my attention, Ian. I don't know why that was. I mean, maybe it was just, having grown up in a sort of beachy country, one of those reasons. But no, I really enjoyed beach volleyball. And yeah, no, I think the Olympics are great. I mean, I don't know what the future of the Olympics is going to be like. I mean, obviously Tokyo had to postpone it this year. I mean, it's probably cost them fortunes. But, and also for some of the smaller events, I hope they don't die out, because I think that sort of makes the Olympics, being attached to a particular sport that you'll never watch again for those, 2 or 3 days, is something that's, it's quite unique, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. I tell you what, I mean, Tokyo, as you know, it's been postponed. It's not been cancelled. So, I mean, what a year next year is going to be, assuming everything happens. You've got the merging of this year and next year. So you've got the Olympics and the Euro, football 2020 and the Ryder Cup. And then you mix that with the Lions next year. and all the regulars as well, the Wimbledons and all the golf. It's going to be. I mean, it's going to be a lot of golf. I was going to say golf widows, but in fairness, golf widows and golf widowers next year.
Sure will be, mate.
Sporting, not just golf. Sporting, I mean. Yeah. Right, your turn. Question 6 on the subject of golf.
Yeah, subject of golf. USPGA started. Who won it last year, and where was it played? And that's for 2 points.
Okay, fine. I bet you're a golfer. I bet you're good at golf, aren't you?
I am a golfer. I think that's about the only thing that really grated me during the lockdown. I thought, what a perfect way to sort of work on your golf swing and get better. So I had a net up in my garage, and I was whacking balls into the net and, sort of getting very keen on it. So yeah, when obviously I know that you guys have started up here. It's a bit slow, but yeah, looking forward to getting back into that. Yeah, golf's my new sort of passion.
What's your handicap?
I would say on a good day, 5 or 6.
Oh, that's a good day.
Yeah, it's not a bad day. I'm steady.
But I mean, I find when I assumed you were good at golf just because I know a lot of sports people and so many footballers and rugby players and cricketers just are. And I guess it's a question of, in some cases, they've got a little bit of time on their hands, but also they're natural sports people. So the eye-to-hand coordination is already there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think cricket as well, it's quite a similar sport in the sense that, you spend a long time out in the field. It doesn't really make sense because I always felt like on your day off, why would you want to go and play a game of golf when you spent 5 days in the field, But I think the two go together. I think golf and cricket. And it's quite a social way to sort of spend time and get to know teammates. And of course, in the corporate world, it sort of helps as well. So yeah, I think I grew up playing golf. Dad used to take me down in the evenings in Durban. So it's a great game, and I can't wait to get back to it, to be honest.
Fantastic. You're a Durban boy, of course, aren't you? Where you were born. Well, I remember about Durban. I was there for the last time I was there. I think was years. God, time flies. It was the Lions in 2009. But I remember when loads of baboons.
That's right.
Along the seafront.
Yes. Yeah, they're all there. They're on the golf course as well. Just make sure you don't feed them and get too close because they can be a little bit dangerous, actually. But there are a lot of baboons, monkeys in Durban. And yeah, I haven't been back for a while, actually. I mean, that's where I grew up. But my family live in a place called Knysna, which is down the Garden Route, about 5 hours from Cape Town. So yeah, it's a pretty special place. There's lots of sort of magical wonders in South Africa, lots of coastlines and beaches to go to.
As is Cape Town as well, by the way.
Cape Town, yeah, exactly.
Okay, my turn. Question 7. It's a rugby question. Steve Borthwick, the former England captain and England assistant coach, is the new head coach of the Leicester Tigers. Can you name the 2 clubs that Steve used to play for? And that is also worth 2 points. Question 8, Compo, over to you.
Yeah, we've got another cricket question. Owen Morgan heads England's all-time leading ODI runs scored. The question is, who is second and third for 2 points?
Yeah, just quickly on that subject. I know it's a year away, but we haven't talked about this before. I remember watching live the 2003 Rugby World Cup final. I was in the stand in Sydney watching Johnny Wilkinson pop over the drop goal with 28 seconds to go, and I thought, there's never going to be another sporting event, never mind rugby, sport, in a final where it's so enormous and so important that's going to get anywhere close to matching that drama. Well, I give you the ODI final last year. I mean, when a team wins, a team normally deserves to win. Yeah. But you need a little slice of luck, don't you? And the Ben Stokes innings, as brilliant as it was, the catch on the boundary, which becomes a 6, the deflection for 6, you just couldn't make it up, could you?
No, it was a remarkable event. I mean, the game seemed all but gone. I was in Trafalgar Square, and I mean, I got there early, and there was a handful of people, and I can tell you, it was, obviously, bar being at Lord's, it was a pretty amazing thing. I was working for Sky Sports News, and we're doing some reporting there, and I have to say, it's probably one of the best things I've ever done. My mother was with me, and it almost seemed like fate was on England's side. It was just sort of meant to happen. The whole spectacle. And I had to say, I did feel desperate for New Zealand. I mean, it was a really tough one. I sort of still think maybe they should have shared it. Maybe I'm wrong in saying that.
No, you're not. You're not wrong in saying that. Here's another theory which I've had. Why didn't they just do another Super Over?
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't know. I think everyone was pretty naked. I don't think anyone wanted the ball by then. Owen Morgan would have had to bowl it himself.
But it just seemed a bit unsatisfactory. They came up with a rule which they've now ditched, haven't they? England won because they scored more boundaries. I mean,
yeah, I have to be honest with you. Watching it, I didn't know that was the rule. That was changed pretty soon. I mean, just before the World Cup, and it had always been who had lost more wickets, or fewer wickets. That had always been. That's what I thought. So when I was looking at it, I thought, well, hang on. I didn't actually know the rule myself. So, and I can tell you, not many of the players would have done. They would have had to inquire with the umpires and what have you. So it would have been absolutely gutting for New Zealand. And I don't think it would have gone amiss if they had shared the World Cup. I mean, I think everyone perhaps would have agreed with it. But it is one of those things. England probably deserved it. I mean, they'd probably been the form team going into that World Cup. And having played with Owen Morgan for a number of years, grown up with him, played with him at Middlesex, I know him very well. And I think what he's done so well is being able to really galvanise a group of guys and really have that kind of vision. I think that's a very difficult thing to do. I think Trevor Bayliss is an excellent one-day coach. And I think the almost stubborn nature in which they've stuck to their guns and worked with the players that they wanted to. I know it sounds quite simplistic, but to actually stick to that and do it, rather than chopping and changing, which a lot of England teams have done in the past, I think is what has signified their success, really backing players. That no England team has backed players in the way that they had.
Sure. Well, we had him for a lunch in November last year, and I have to say, and this won't surprise you, he was very impressive, impressive. And supposed to do 40 minutes. We did over an hour. And frankly, nobody moved an inch just listening to him. So he was an absolutely brilliant guest. Right, my turn. Question 9. It's a rugby league question, and the reason why is because next Tuesday, as I've said earlier, Martin Offiah, the legendary rugby player, is our guest. So the question is a Martin Offiah question, which is teams he played for. Well, we all remember him scorching up the wing, scoring for Wigan. But can you name 2 of the other 3 English clubs that Martin Offiah played for? 2 of the other 3 clubs, and that's worth 2 points. And finally,
number 10. It's a tennis question. Can you name the 2 famous venues that stage the French and US Opens for 2 points? US Open and French.
You a tennis fan?
I am a tennis fan. Yep. Been very fortunate to have gone to Wimbledon finals and played a lot as a kid, actually. Again, I think, when you're young here in South Africa, I think tennis, cricket, rugby, those sort of sports are quite prominent. So I played a lot of tennis and still enjoy it. I think we're sort of coming to the end of an era, aren't we? I don't think you'll find an era quite like it. But I suppose sad in some ways, but hopefully some good young players come through. There's a few.
Yeah. It's been an extraordinary year. We've been very lucky to live through it. Are you more Federer? Are you style and panache? Or are you more Nadal, guts, physical?
I'd have to say I'm more of a Nadal fan. I love Federer. I mean, I think Djokovic is the best of the lot. But I think character-wise and in terms of an endearment, I think Rafa's the type of guy that that tenacity, that kind of fighting ability. He'd definitely be an opening batsman, wouldn't he?
Yeah, he plays his first shot like it's his last as well, doesn't he?
I've never seen a guy put so much into something.
Yeah, he just won't be beaten. Okay, now hopefully everybody's put their answers down. So we're now going to rattle through the answers so that then we can have a bit of a chat. So I'm going to start. Question 1 is the football question. 2, name the 2 Fulham managers since 2000. One of whom was part of that great French team of the 80s that won the European Championships. It is Jean Tigana. And the other manager, was part of the Wimbledon crazy gang that won the FA Cup so famously in 88, beating Wimbledon. It was Laurie Sanchez. So if you got both of those, 2 points. If you got one of those, it's 1 point. And if you got none of them, it's, to use cricketing parlance, a duck. Right, your turn. Your turn, Cosmo. Question 2.
Question 2 was a cricket question. It was Pakistan's 2 top all-time test batsmen in terms of runs scored. 2 points. The answer was yes, Yunus Khan, 10,099 runs, and the great Javed Miandad, who had 8,832. Those were the 2 players, Yunus Khan and Javed Miandad.
Okay, question 3, Formula One question. British Grand Prix last week. Esteban Ocon and Lance Stroll finished 6th and 9th. Where did they come from? Ocon is French and Lance Stroll is Canadian. So that's worth 2 points. Question 4.
Boxing, Lennox Lewis only lost twice during his heavyweight career. Can you name who beat him for 2 points? The answer was Oliver McCall in 1994 and Hashim Rahman in 2001.
Very, very quick by story to that, because the Rahman defeat was in Johannesburg, and Lennox was so confident he was filming, had a cameo role in Ocean's 11. He was in that film, Ocean's 11, and he arrived in South Africa. And of course, Joburg, as you well know, Compo, is 5,000 feet above sea level. So you feel the altitude. He only rocked up about a week before, and Rahman had been there for 4 weeks, and it was one of the biggest shocks in heavyweight history. Anyway, there we go. You've learned something tonight. Right, my turn. Question 5, the Olympics. Where were the 60 and 64 Olympic stage? Well, 60 was Rome, and 64 is where it's going to be staged next year, Tokyo. Question 6.
Question 6, golf. USPGA has started. Who won it last year, and where was it played? And of course, that was Brooks Koepka at Bethpage Black in New York.
Yeah, the Bethpage Black just outside New York City, where the golf fans there, I've been there, are notorious for giving it to you straight. So you don't want to be on the wrong side of those guys. Right, my turn. Question 7. It's a rugby question. Steve Borthwick, new Leicester head coach. Which 2 teams did he play for? They were, of course, Bath and Saracens. Bath and Saracens. Over to you, Compo.
8 is a cricket question. Owen Morgan heads England's all-time ODI runs. Who is 2nd and 3rd? That is Joe Root, the current Test captain, and Ian Bell.
There we go. My turn. Question 9, Rugby League. Martin Afire is our quiz co-host next week on Tuesday, the 11th. Which clubs did he play for in England? We all know he played for Wigan. He played for 3 others. Could you name 2 of them? They are Widnes, the London Broncos, and the Salford City Reds. He was best known for playing for Wigan when they won absolutely everything during the 90s. And finally, for the first half, question 10.
Tennis question. Name the 2 famous venues that stage the French and US Opens. Of course, that's Roland Garros and Flushing Meadow.
There we go. So tot up, it's out of 20 marks, everybody. See how you're doing so far. Have a little 5, 6, 7 minute break whilst Compo and I have a quick chat. Pour yourself a drink or have some halftime oranges or whatever you might want to do at halftime. And it gives me the opportunity to, first of all, the obvious question, famous name, mega famous granddad, pretty famous great uncle, I think it was. Your dad played cricket, cricket all over your family, and of course football as well. Has it been a brilliant, 100% brilliant, having the name Compton attached to you, or has it had it sort of created its problems as well? So much expectation.
Yeah, good question. I mean, I always find it hard to answer. I guess growing up, I was sport mad as it was, as a young kid. And, so as I said, growing up in South Africa, you've got the weather, you've got a country that's mad on sport. So I did that anyway. I think it was probably, sort of 9, 10 years old, where you start to realize this family legacy. I mean, I might have seen pictures of granddad and that was all nice and what have you, but, I wanted to play. And so I always found sort of personally, I always was very ambitious myself. I loved sport. I was clearly quite good at it. And I think, in terms of understanding legacy and understanding my grandfather's prowess, was probably only the first time when I came to the UK. And that was when I was 12 or 13 on a cricket tour. I stayed with him. And I remember holding his hand and he walked me around Lords. And, you can imagine as a 12-year-old kid, just my eyes like sort of soccer balls looking around and just seeing the history and the long room and then going onto the pitch and even getting to touch the grass. I remember the hallowed turf was something that Mick Hunt, the groundsman then, didn't let anyone on. But of course, my grandfather got to walk on. And, I think that probably planted the seeds. And I think at that stage, I was very proud. I think the opportunity, having this famous grandfather, hearing and regaling stories, hearing what, all the ones that he told me and then staying with them, was a very proud moment. But I think deep down, I always remember saying it's great that I've got this famous grandfather, and like a Brian Lara or a Sachin Tendulkar, I'd like to emulate some of the things that he has. I think maybe looking back, you're probably right. I think the Compton name at Lords was something that I probably did struggle with more than I wanted to lay on. I pretended I didn't. I was, as I said, I was ambitious myself, and I think I probably only realized that when I went to Somerset, and I realized that down there I had to sort of create my own name, my own reputation, and that was probably the best thing that happened for me in hindsight. But it kind of saddened me in a way, because obviously Lords was somewhere it's almost like a second home to me. But I think I definitely found my own identity at Somerset.
Now, we can't name who he played for because this is going to be a question in the second half. But, I mean, you can't do it now, I guess partly because of the way that the seasons merge or coincide with each other, but also maybe the physical test. But your granddad, played for England cricket, and he played England football and won and a very, very large, successful team, which we're going to talk about later. For a lot of people in their 20s and even their 30s now, unless they're sort of mini cricket historians, they won't kind of understand what a big deal he was. If he was today, in today's scenario, today's circumstances, he'd be an absolute megastar, wouldn't he?
Yeah, I guess he would be. He, I mean, again, I won't give it away, of course, because
I don't give away the brand either, because that's another question.
He did a few other things off the field, but yeah, I think it was more a sign of the times in many ways. I mean, you've got to remember Britain were coming out of the Second World War. The country was pretty much in a depression, and I think his character, as much as his ability and his sporting prowess, probably had more of an effect on the people as such. They said he was a man of the people. I think he did. When he came into a room, he lit up a room. Even as a young boy, I can remember him coming in and, hello, old boy, and, story here and a drink here. And he spent probably the second part of his life in a pub, or at least a Denham golf course. He spent his whole time. I think there was a chair named after him in the corner of Denham golf course. So I think everyone kind of remembers speaking to him. And I think his personality probably shone as much as his display on the cricket field or on the football field. So that's probably what I remember the most.
Well, let's talk about his grandson now, i.e. you. 16 test matches, 200s, 250s, a long and successful career as a professional cricketer. I would imagine 98% of cricketers would give their left arm, or whatever arm they won't need so much, in order to emulate your career. But we're not talking about them, we're talking about you. For you, when you hear that and all your stats, are you happy? Are you satisfied? Did you actually we had Phil Tufton on a few weeks ago, and he sort of interrupted me and said, are you going to ask me if I underachieved? And I said, no, actually I'm not. I'm going to ask you whether yes, did you underachieve or did you overachieve? Because other people make up their mind about what you should or shouldn't have done. Are you happy with your career? Obviously anybody could do more. Or are you frustrated, or actually, no, I squeezed every last drop out of what I can do?
So it's a tough one again to answer, because I think deep down I felt slightly frustrated, and I have to be honest about that. But then again, you look back and the dream was to play for England. I mean, that I would have bitten someone's arm off to play for England. So it's with a little bit of hindsight, but also trying to also remember what I dreamt about and what, I always remember saying, if I play a test match, that would be the pinnacle, that I would be happy with that. I guess when you start playing and you start getting better, and then you actually do play that test match, and you realize that, hang on, this is something that I can do and I can achieve. And I don't want to labor the point. I think what I look back on is I was incredibly lucky to play with the players I did, B in the teams that I did. I mean, I didn't lose a series. I think I lost one match, and beat India in India for the first time in 28 years. Beat a South African team with De Villiers and Rabada and all those guys here in South Africa. And came back to my hometown, so to speak. So look, I had some great experiences, but I think, look, to say would I have been happy? I think if I played 50 test matches, I would have. I feel like in here, that's what I could have achieved. I think it was within my realms. I think I had it. I think you have it in your hands. And yeah, look, I made a couple of mistakes, didn't play well, and ultimately probably didn't take my chances at the right time. And it is small margins. There was the likes of Joe Root coming up, who was clearly a better player and going to be a very good player. So I don't have any qualms about that. I think it was just more, there were some moments where you know your level, you know what you're capable of. And I think only you know that. It's not about telling other people or whatever. And then the problem is in international cricket is people see what they see. And it's whether you're ready or not, it's too late. You have to be ready. So I think that's why I have so much respect for guys who have played for that length of time, because you've got to turn up and it's that day. You can't just push the clocks or halt the clocks. You've got to actually perform on that day. So
this very quickly, because I want to talk to you about what you're doing now. This boy Pope looks pretty good, doesn't he? And he's a ginger, so he's had it tough all his life. I should know, but he's looking the part, isn't he? I don't want to add any pressure, but he's looking good, isn't he?
No, you just get some players, don't you? I think Joe Root's one, Alistair Cook was another. They sort of come up through the ranks. They're kind of better than everyone, and when they get in, you can kind of see that they're going to stay. I think they take to like a duck to water. And Pope's one of those. I mean, you look at his average in first-class cricket at his age. There's something exceptional about that, and I think you can't. It's something you've got to look at. And the selectors have done well to get him in. I think bringing him back in was a smart move, and he looks like he's there to stay. I think he's an exceptional player. I think he's got all the class, the style. He sort of reminds me of Ian Bell a little bit. It's big raps, but time will tell. Again, it's still early days, but he definitely looks like he's going to be there to stay. He looks like a quality player.
Okay, now what about you? What's happening now? What's the plan, Stan, as they say?
Well, I thought I was coming to head up and do some of the presenting for the sporting club. Apparently the sporting club needs a new presenter that's got a bit stale recently. So
desperately. The one they've got, frankly, between you and me, is pretty useless. But the good thing is he's cheap. But we'll see. But if that doesn't happen, do you have a plan B?
I do. Look, I'm still working for Middlesex as an ambassador, working with the CEO on some commercial projects. So I've quite enjoyed that in terms of staying in elite sport. I'm doing quite a lot of photography, actually. I think it's been a real passion of mine for a number of years. So I'm selling some fine art prints. I've done some, I've been fortunate and I've done some incredible travels over the last couple of years. Used the opportunity of sort of retiring from sport, and instead of perhaps jumping into something so quickly, I sort of used the opportunity to really build that. So, that's a tough one. And then obviously the media side of things. Still, I did the CPL in November last year. Which was great, the Caribbean Premier League. So I was out there commentating.
Yeah. Well, you tough gig. Tough. I do feel for you. I promise
it's one of the worst gigs I've ever done. 4 different islands, watching Caribbean cricket and drinking rum. It was pretty good.
Yeah. Somebody's got to do it. And thank you for doing it on the behalf of everybody else. Thank you so much for taking the strain for the rest of us. Thank you.
Pleasure, mate. Absolute pleasure. That was amazing. I mean, it was a great experience. And I think now it's just I've got a few other opportunities that I'm going to try and explore when I come back. I'm back in 2 weeks. Obviously some stuff to do with Middlesex. I think the future of sport is an interesting place to be. I'm doing a master's as well. Trying to finish my master's through Buckingham University. So it's called Leadership in Sport and Entrepreneurship. So that's kind of kept me busy through the COVID period. At least I've been not frying my brain watching too much Netflix. I've kind of kept in the books a little bit. But yeah, it's a tough look. To be very honest, Ian, it is a tough time. I found retiring difficult. I think the loss of identity and perhaps seeing your dreams sort of just suddenly go up in smoke, and you suddenly have to deal with some of the thoughts about the past, or could it be better, and all these questions you ask me are obviously things that you think about. And I think now it's about drawing a line through it, coming back and not reinventing myself, but sort of reinventing myself in the sense of what do I actually want to do with the second part of my life. And it might not reach the same highs as standing out there facing Dale Steyn, on the first over of a test match. I've got to come to terms with that. And I think the more you do come to terms with that and understand that there is other stuff to do, and perhaps mentoring other young players, I've enjoyed a bit of that. So look, if anyone's listening and wants to get me in their office and have a chat, I'm open for a discussion. But yeah, I think I've got a lot to learn and a lot to discover. But at the moment, I've got a few things keeping me busy.
I've had a couple of ideas which we'll discuss off air, okay? But I think that might help. But all I will say, and I don't want to sound patronising, you should be very proud of what you've achieved so far. As you know, I know a few sports people. It's tough for everybody. to lose that adrenaline, to sort of your career is over in your mid-30s or so. But you're doing exactly the right thing. You're setting yourself new challenges, and you'll be fine. So, and you've got a lot of supporters, so you'll be fine. And I've got a couple of ideas which we'll discuss in a bit. I think you'll like them. But we're in a quiz, so we need to return to the second half of the quiz. If everybody's ready and poised, we shall get cracking. I will begin. Question 11, a little bit of horse racing. 2 points. Who has won the most flat racing jockeys titles in the history of British racing? And secondly, how many has Frankie Dettori, so it's not him, how many has Frankie Dettori won? We had Frankie as one of our lunch guests, Nick. I'm not hugely into horse racing. No. He was a brilliant guest. Everybody absolutely loved him. Talking about your granddad being a character. He's obviously in an Italian hysterical way, also a great character as well. So who's won the most flat racing jockey titles? I can tell you it's a big number. And how many titles has Frankie Dettori won? Over to you, my friend.
Cool. Another cricket chat. Of course, going back to the lunchtime chat. My grandfather Dennis played for which famous football team, and what well-known male grooming product did he famously promote?
There we go. Okay, question 13. You could do a bit of it right now, actually. Just get rid of the floppy bit.
I was giving a little hint there, but I just hope that I didn't know if they detected that or not.
Yeah. Question. Little hint. Question 13.
At least I've got some.
Yeah, all right. Question 13, rugby question. Gloucester and Northampton Saints. What are the names of the two grounds that they play for? Gloucester and the Northampton Saints, and that's worth 2 points. Okay, over to you. Question 14.
14, football. Thierry Henry, my hero, and Ian Wright, another hero of mine, are first and second in the all-time scorers list for Arsenal with 175 and 104 goals, respectively. Can you name two of the next three for 2 points?
There we go. And listen, whilst we've got you, and we'll explain why you are later. That's not important. But what we can say is that you are a massive gooner. Yeah. And is it fair to say that your mood has definitely lightened and improved being a gooner over the last 7 days?
Absolutely. I never know why, but actually, you know what, we managed to find a bar here in South Africa, and it's kind of not really, you can't drink alcohol here. There's no smoking or anything. So it's very difficult to find somewhere. But, just quietly, we found a little spot at the top of this bar. This friend knew someone, and the game played. So we had a few beers, watched Arsenal thump Chelsea, which was incredible. And it was probably the best day I've had this year, I've got to be honest with you, in a pretty miserable year. So
now, I'll be honest with you, when Arsene Wenger left, they were talking about Mikel Arteta, and I was really against it. But typical Arsenal, the guy's got no experience, really bad idea. They got this guy in, Unai Emery. I wasn't doing cartwheels, but, he'd won a lot of Europa Leagues. He, was okay. But the second time they got Arteta in, my mind had changed because I thought, well, hold on a minute. I'd heard that Wenger and Pep Guardiola had both said, this guy is going to become one of the great managers. And I have to say, without going overboard, because it's a big job, but he's really impressed me so far. Yeah. What about you?
Absolutely. I think, not knowing a huge amount about football managers, but just seeing him the way he is, just coming in, I think within minutes, you could just see it was the right thing. His attitude, got a lot of respect, a lot of humility. He looks switched on. He looks quite bright. He looks right. I mean, time will tell. Of course, it's still early days in his career, but there's absolutely no doubt that I've got a lot of faith in him. And you can see that he's built a good culture. Guys look like they're having fun again. There's a real team spirit there.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, isn't it? Attitude and team culture. And you obviously play in a team sport. If you ever got the right attitude or the right culture, it doesn't matter how good you are, does it?
Yeah. No, it doesn't. I mean, look, you can have very good players. You've seen a lot of clubs spend a lot of money and they get some amazing players in. But yeah, they'll have the odd good season, but I think fundamentally Arsenal's always played with a spirit. They've played a style of football that we've all sort of come to love, and perhaps we haven't seen that for some time. And I think Aubameyang and these, of course, he's a world-class player. So you do need your world-class players. There's no doubt about that. And I think there is some way for Arsenal still to go. I think they need to do some good recruiting.
Yeah.
If they ever open their sort of checkbook. But I think right now to achieve what they have with the culture and the team spirit and securing Aubameyang is obviously a huge thing. So,
let's not get carried away here, but it seems like they're going to keep Aubameyang. They're also, it looks like they've got Willian. It looks like they're going to get Coutinho on loan, and they're going to get this guy, Thomas Partey, who is apparently like Makelele, like Conte, really good just in front of the defence. Yeah. Now, Liverpool and City are on another planet at the moment, but maybe, just maybe, Arsenal might squeak into the last four. But the thing I would say to you is, we're traditionalists, aren't we? What are you going to be remembered for more? Finishing fourth or winning the FA Cup?
I guess it's a tough one. I think you would take the trophy at this stage, wouldn't you?
Yeah. If you're a fan, you would. If you're a fan, you would.
Well, I don't know. I think Arteta would probably take the trophy in some ways. I mean, look, he would probably like both. But, I think you've got to start somewhere. I think winning the FA Cup's a start. Yes, we'd like to make the top four, but that might be something that might be a 2 or 3 year project, not top four, but maybe the top, second or third. I think that's going to take a bit of time. You know what I mean? We have gone quite far down. I think we all realise that. And I think we've got to be a bit patient,
Okay. So my turn. Question. Oh, and I'm sorry, just to say, Thierry Henry, your hero. I mean, how good was it being an Arsenal fan when you were watching Henry doing what he was doing, Bergkamp doing what he was doing, Pires, Vieira, really amazing back four. I mean, they were.
I remember going with my uncle and my dad to a game at the Old Highbury, and I remember Vieira scoring a 30-yard sort of driver in midfield, and I was right on the touchline at the Old Highbury. I think it was one of the last few games that was played there, and that was something I'd never forget. Yeah, it was amazing. It was amazing.
Okay, my turn. Question 15. It's a golf question. In the 2018 Ryder Cup, which of course was played in France and Europe won, Thomas Bjorn was the captain, and he was another great guest of the sporting club. We had a lunch with him, Compo. Grown men, executives fighting to get their hands on the Ryder Cup because that was in the room as well. Anyway, he had 4 captain's picks. One of them was Ian Poulter, because, of course, Ian Poulter morphs into Mr. Ryder Cup, becomes the best player in the world whenever the Ryder Cup's playing. Can you name 2 of the other 3 captain's picks? Give you a bit of a clue. They're all pretty well-known European golfers. Name 2 of the other 3 captain's picks for Thomas Bjorn in the last Ryder Cup. Over to you, my friend.
Lovely question. Okay, this is an F1 question. I was born in South Africa, believe it or not. Can you name the only South African to become the F1 world champion, and in what year? 2 points. F1 world champion. He was South African. Who was he?
Can't say his name yet, but I can tell you that I once spent a day with him. I don't know whether he still has it, but he had a farm in Hampshire. Did you know this? It kept buffalo. No. And it made buffalo ice cream and obviously meat as well. I was writing a Formula 1 book, so I spent half the day, or best part of a day, with him. And he took me into the pen and just left me there, shut the gate, and had about 30 buffalo around me. That was a little bit nerve-wracking. The ice cream was very nice, though. Right, my turn. Question 17. It's a boxing question, which is the lightest weight division in boxing? And secondly, name the division that comes between light heavyweight and heavyweight. So the lightest division and the division between light heavyweight and heavyweight. And that's worth 2 points. All the questions actually are worth 2 points. Okay, Compo.
18 is an Olympic question. Name 2 of the last 3 disciplines in the heptathlon. 2 of the last 3 disciplines in the heptathlon.
We had the great Daley Thompson as one of our lunch guests, and I don't know whether as a photographer, you'll appreciate this more. There are certain iconic sports photographs. There's the one of Bob Beamon breaking the world long jump record in midair. There's the famous one, you must have seen it, the then Cassius Clay, before he became Muhammad Ali, standing over Sonny Liston. You know that one, don't you? All over the canvas. And there's the famous one of Daley Thompson in the decathlon, which, the male version. At the end, when all the others had collapsed after the last event, the 1,500 meters, they're all on the floor and Thompson's standing looking over them all. Wonderful photo. The message is,
brilliant.
This is why I'm number one. I'm still standing.
Yeah, great. No, I love those. Those great iconic photographs.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd like to take a couple. Maybe we can do that.
Hey, by the way, I'm just thinking, we're talking about the never mind the World Cup final last year, the Ben Stokes innings at Heningley, which was extraordinary. You're talking about photographs.
Yeah.
How about the photograph? Him with the whole stand behind going up and him going because he just won it.
I think that's got to be one of the greatest photos. I mean, he must have it on his ceiling, surely in his bedroom or something like that. He's got to have it everywhere. I would.
I know what you're saying. Might be a little bit off-putting for his wife, but anyway, we won't go there with that one. Okay, and it is my question. Question 19 is a tennis question. Yeah, this is an interesting one. We're talking about the great era that it is. Federer, Nadal, Djokovic, and our very own Andy Murray, between them have won every single Wimbledon title year after year after year after year. Can you name the person, the last person, if you like, to win the Wimbledon title, and it not being one of those four, and when was it? So remove the big four. Who was the last person to win Wimbledon who was not part of that big four? And what year was it? It was some time ago, believe me. Final question of the evening before we do the answers, and you have the honour, my friend.
Right, it's a cricket question. Can you believe it? At Lord's, 4 of the stands are named after famous old Middlesex players. One is the Nick Compton stand. Can you name 2 of the other 3 stands?
There we go. And a little tip. They're not modern, so it's not the Phil Tufnell stand. Right. Okay, fantastic. So everybody, if you've written down all the answers, we will provide the answers for you. So question 11 was the horse racing question. Who's won the most flat racing jockeys titles? Well, it was Gordon Richards who won 26 is unbelievable racing titles. He, of course, went on to become a best-selling novelist as well. So he had 2 very, very successful careers. And the second question was, how many titles has Frankie Dettori won? Well, he's only won 3. Let's say only won 3. Obviously, that's brilliant. But you think he might have won more. But what he was good at was winning the major races. He's won so many of the major races. And for him, the Derby floated his boat much, much more than the 240 at Wincanton on a Tuesday afternoon. So he was a big stage performer. There we go. Question 12.
Question 12 was a grandfather question. Dennis played for which famous football team and what male grooming product did he famously promote? And the answer is, of course, Arsenal and Brill Cream.
Yeah, I think your great uncle Leslie, he played for Arsenal as well, didn't he?
Yeah, he played for Middlesex as a wicket keeper. He was a good player and played for Arsenal and England. So he was a good footballer. He was a left back, I think.
Yeah, wow.
He was a centre back. Yeah.
Yeah, Beefy did it for a little bit, but there was Phil Neal. Phil Neal did it for Worcestershire and Lincoln. Yeah. And there was a goalie for Aston Villa, I've forgotten his name, who did it as well. But Jim Coombs, was it, I think? But we're talking about the 70s and 80s, Okay, my turn. Question before I was born, obviously. Question 13, rugby question. Where are the 2 grounds, the names of the 2 grounds that Gloucester and the Northampton Saints play at? They are, of course, Kingsholm and Franklin's Gardens. Kingsholm and Franklin's Gardens. Okay.
Right, we've got the football question. Thierry Henry, Ian Wright were first and second in all-time scorers list for Arsenal. Can you name the 2 out of the other 3? And the 3 are RVP, Robin van Persie, Dennis Bergkamp, and Olivier Giroud. So if you got
There
two
we
of
go.
those three.
Giroud might have thrown a few people. Think he's like fifth in the all-time Arsenal list. I suspect, but I know, Aubameyang, he's only been there 5 minutes, but he's just behind Giroud, so it's only a matter of time, assuming he stays, of course. Question 15 is a golf question. Can you name two? Well, there were four captain's picks for the Ryder Cup for the European team, Thomas Bjorn, in 2018. Ian Poulter was one of them. Can you name two out of the other three? I did say they were pretty well known, all proven Ryder Cup players. Two of these three, Paul Casey, Sergio Garcia, or Henrik Stenson, all pretty good for captain's picks, I have to say. And actually, very quickly on that subject, you've already said you're a great golfer. What about the Ryder Cup? What a sporting event that is.
Yeah, I went to the Ryder Cup down in Wales at Celtic Manor.
Oh, yeah.
That was incredible. I think Graham McDowell won it on the last, I think something like that. And I was right there on the hill. It had been raining for sort of a solid day before. So I still think one of the best, sporting events ever. I mean, I think the Masters, the Ryder Cup, probably the Olympics, and sort of an Ashes Test match. You don't get much better than that, do you?
No, you certainly don't. And just one other thing I remember, funny things stick in your mind. I remember a little lesson for all of us. Ian Woosnam was the captain, and they're all on the balcony afterwards. All the crowds, they're all celebrating, and he had a Boehm of champagne, and he made the mistake, because unfortunately the world's TV cameras were on him, of downing so much that it came back out, especially through his nose. So it wasn't the best look, champagne pouring out of pretty much every orifice. So I suppose the lesson is, if you're gonna have a big swig, don't overdo it. There we go. Okay, my turn. Your turn. Sorry, question 16.
I was born in South Africa. Can you name the only South African to become F1 world champion in what year? And the answer is 1979. It was Jody Scheckter.
There we go. Is that a sport you're into?
Yeah, a bit. I mean, I watch enough of it, but I'm not massively into it. I think Hamilton seems to sort of turn up and win everything, doesn't he? So
yeah, he does at the moment.
Yeah.
When Jody Scheckter won in '79, though, it wasn't as bad as it was in the '50s and the '60s, but it was still a very, very dangerous game in '79, and he would have had a lot of mates. Not make it. It was horrendous in those days. So fair play to Jody. Right, question 17 is a boxing question. What's the lightest weight in boxing? It is light flyweight. Would you believe there's a light flyweight? They should call it flyweight, shouldn't they? But anyway, light flyweight. And what's the weight division between light heavyweight and heavyweight? It's cruiserweight. So light flyweight and cruiserweight.
Right. Number 18, Olympics. Name two of the last three disciplines in the heptathlon. And the answer is the long jump and the javelin, and also 800 meters. So if you've got two of those three, well done.
There we go. You sound like Richard Osman on Pointless. If you've ever seen him, if you've got that at home, very well done. My turn. Question 19 is a tennis question, and Federer, Nadal, Djokovic, and Andy Murray twice have, would you believe, cleaned up at Wimbledon all the way down to 2002. The question I asked was, who was the last person to win Wimbledon outside that before and when? But it was 2002. So basically have dominated Wimbledon ever since, but then they've dominated tennis ever since, particularly obviously the big three. It's astonishing, isn't it? 18 years this year didn't happen. Astonishing. The honour, sir.
Right. Two of the other three famous stands at Lord's. One of them was the Compton stand. Who are two of the other three? And the answer is the Edridge stand, Bill Edridge, and Gubby Allen, and of course Pelham Warner. So if you got two of those three, well done.
There we go. And so we come to the end of the quiz. 40 marks. I don't know about you, Compo, but I think if you got something between maybe 24 and 32, that's about right. You don't want it too easy and you don't want it too hard.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think anything over 30 is a winner.
Yeah. Well, if you've got over 30, then you really need to get out and find something else to do as well. But no, that's absolutely brilliant. So guess what? That hour has flown by. I said it would. Absolutely flown by. I'm going to give you a little shout with a couple of ideas I've got, which I think you're going to like. Which will help you, especially as you're coming back to England. But for the time being, Nick Compton, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I hope you enjoyed it. You have a future career as a quiz master as well. That's another option for you.
Thanks, mate. I don't know. I don't have a day job at the moment, but I might not give it up too quickly.
And there's bound to be a job going at the Sporting Club, because honestly, we've got to get rid of that host. He's absolutely useless.
He's shocking, mate. I've been saying it for years.
Yeah, I know you have. I know. And everybody's listening. Everybody's agreeing. So look, anyway, safe travels when you come over here, and we will hook up, no doubt, again very, very soon. Best of luck. I'm saying best of luck as if we're not going to talk again. We'll be talking very soon anyway. Sure. And thank you so much for joining us tonight.
And thanks to everyone. Cheers, guys. Thank you.
All right. All the best. Okay. Yeah. And so, ladies and gentlemen, we come to the end of another quiz. Flew by, didn't it? Wasn't he great? Our friend Compo. And we'll be hearing a bit more from him, and I'm sure we'll be doing one or two things with him as well at the Sporting Club. So we come to the end of the show. Thank you so much to all of you for watching, as always. And we're going to do it all over again on Tuesday night with the Rugby League legend, which is Martin Charriers of Fire. But in the meantime, as always, still stay safe. We're not out of the woods yet. And have a great 5 days until we catch up again on Tuesday night. So this is Ian Stafford signing off after another sports quiz with the stars, brought to you from the Sporting Club. Good night.